What's up, guys? So today I'm going to go over exactly how I take this photo from the raw image to the final product. So it's not just about taking pretty photos, I really want to show on this channel what goes into this stuff, the editing, the shooting, the planning, the researching, kind of everything. So for this one, I'm just going to go through editing, kind of talk through my workflow and some tricks that I do. This was the last day that my 1635 G Master was kind of working. I don't know what happened, but at the end of this day and the end of this shoot, my 1635 G Master just kind of broke. Out of nowhere, just stopped working. And it was weird because before it broke, it was giving me these really crazy dark edges, and this isn't even like the craziest of the bunch. But anyways, it's fixed now. I got it. I took it to the shop and everything. But I am going to play off of the dark edges that did bring in. So to start, I'm going to do my lens corrections. So remove chromatic aberration and enable profile corrections, and it automatically knows the lens I was using. Just quickly, my settings were 16 millimeters, f4.5, 1/1250 of a second, and ISO 100. I'm going to start with my base Lightroom edit that I do for all my photos. Highlights down, shadows up, whites up, blacks down, and contrast down. And then from there, just kind of see what I need to modify. Maybe drop the whites one. I don't want anything overexposed. And it's a little green, so I'm going to see if I can put a little bit magenta. That helped, even though it was subtle. Bring up the vibrance of the image. I'm going to just drop it a little bit to the cooler side. And I'm going to bring my blues a touch over to the aqua. I normally do. My greens to a deeper green. Up. Sorry about that. And then my yellows down a little bit to kind of negate what I did to the greens and kind of work in balance. And I don't like the sky how blue it was, but it was kind of midday. So I normally, for shots like that, will crank up the luminance. And if that's too much, but if that doesn't do the trick, I will drop the saturation of the blues just slightly. And for this, I'm going to saturate the greens and the oranges. The reason I don't want to saturate the yellows is because if I do, it's going to look like that, which just looks really horrible, I think. But for a photo like this, when there's not really many pure oranges, but there's a lot of yellows, if you actually saturate the oranges, it'll give all of the yellows like a little subtle vibrance, but it doesn't look like you oversaturated anything. So I really like that look. I still think this photo is a little warm though, so I'm going to drop the white balance a little bit more. And I think that's a solid start. It's before and after. And I'm going to pull this over into Photoshop. Alright guys, so now that this is in Photoshop, as always, I'm going to do Command J to make a copy of my background layer, so if anything goes wrong, I can delete that and I'll still have my photo loaded in Photoshop. And I normally start with the spot healing brush tool, which is right here, where the shortcut is J. I'm going to use my bracket keys to make that a little bit bigger. And I'm just going to go through and do any cleanup that the photo may need. Some photos need this more than others. And I'm not necessarily looking for a dirty sensor. I'm looking really for anything that kind of distracts the eye from where I want it to be. So like some of these green spots, bright spots, this rope kind of blocking off tourist. See if Photoshop can get that. That was a pretty clean one, so I'm just going to get this right here. And then, like I said, just clean up that I think might distract from the viewer. And this is definitely nitpicky, but as you edit more photos, you'll definitely kind of, get your ways and your habits. And then once you have those, you're not really going to want to change those. Even right here, I love it when mountains kind of peek out of the clouds, but for some reason, this just definitely, when I zoom out, is kind of distracting, and it doesn't, from this at a quick glance, it doesn't look like the mountain's peeking out. It kind of just looks like something's not right. So I actually am going to get rid of that as well. I think that looks better. And I'm going to make a merge visible layer, which is Command Option Shift E. And after most things that I edit, I do that because it pretty much makes a fresh layer of everything below it. And now on this, I'm going to come up to Filter, Camera Raw Filter, and I'm going to bring up the exposure. And the reason I'm doing this is because I'm going to be brightening up Bree. And as I'm bringing this up, I'm only looking at her, because in the end, I'm only going to be editing her, even though this will affect the whole photo. So I'm going to bring that up to 1, but I'm going to drop the highlights because I don't want it to be a blown out exposure. So before, after, and the vibrance. And I think that looks better, but maybe a little blue. Okay, now I'm going to hit a layer mask, Command I to invert it. Like I said, I only want this to affect Bree. And now that I have a black inverted layer mask, I need to be brushing white, brush, 100% opacity. And then from here, it's just kind of brighten her up because she is the subject point. She kind of leads the viewer's eyes at first, and then from her it gets led down the stairs and into the ruins at Machu Picchu. So a lot of my editing, I try to be super weary of where I'm directing the viewer's eye. And that's kind of how I just plan my compositions. I'll zoom out of here. Let's see before and after. It mostly just affected her boots, jeans, and hair. Her shirt was already pretty white, but I definitely think that it helps, so I'm definitely happy with that. I'm just going to drop the opacity of it just a little bit though. That looks good. Then make one more merge visible layer, and in this I'm actually going to kind of warp this up, this area, because this just top channel of blue I'm really not digging, but I don't want to crop this. So I'm going to grab my rectangular marquee tool, go from the top of the photo to, I don't want the ruins to be stretched or that tree, so maybe there, but I have a feeling I might change this. And then I do Command T, which is also under Edit and right here, Free Transform Tool. I'm just going to drag this up just a little bit. Click Enter, Command D to deselect. See the before and after. It doesn't really change the photo or manipulate it in the sense of putting something there that isn't there. It kind of just helps fill the composition from like the top stair being at the very bottom, leading down into the mountains and into the sky, kind of just right up to the edge. So I definitely like that, and I think that helped. Now I'm going to make a dodge burn layer, which is Option, click New Layer, and it brings up your advanced settings. And I'm going to come to the mode, and I'm going to do soft light for blending, and I'm going to fill with soft light neutral color. Click OK. And if you wonder why I did that, I do have a chapter on dodging and burning that goes very in depth on how to do this, why I'm doing it this way. So I'm not going to go too deep into that, but this is how I do my dodge burn layers. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick my brush, get this color picker tool, and I'm going to click this part of the grass because I really like the color, and I'm going to look for a yellow spot right there. And that's the more saturated is the right side, and the less saturated is the left side. And at the bottom is the darker, the top is brighter. So I'm going to bring this up all the way and just a little bit. I don't want too much saturation. And what I'm going to do now is with my brush tool, brackets to make it bigger, and at a very light opacity, like 10%, I'm going to brush over any areas of the grass that I think could use some extra just kind of vibrance and brightening. I'm actually going to do 20%. I'm not going to get all of it, I just want to get parts of it to really make it pop. That's a little too much. I'm going to go down to 15 because I don't want there to be any crazy blend lines or anything. zoom out just to see what we're kind of doing before, after. So it just kind of enhances the grass and brings a nice vibrance to it and a nice brightness to it. I'd get these mountains, but the mountains are pretty flat 'cause of the time of day, so I don't want to do anything that might look unnatural. Probably, actually, the top of the mountains are kind of just have that midday look to them, but down here I could definitely amp these up. Trying to just get the parts that are already bright just to enhance those parts. Get this corner of grass and then zoom out, and you can kind of see before and after. Personally, I think it helps. Might be just me. I'm going to make a merge visible, so Command Option Shift E again, and you can see if you hide all these layers here before Photoshop, after Photoshop. It's not much. It's just kind of like cleanup, like down here, bringing up the clouds and a little bit of color enhancement. I think the last thing I'm going to do is one more dodge burn layer, so that's Option, New Layer, Soft Light, and then fill with soft light neutral color. And for this, I'm actually going to burn instead of dodge. So I'm going to click to switch my color to black and add a light opacity brush, but a rather big brush size. I want to direct the viewer's eye to Brie, to the staircase, which leads into the mountains, which leads over to the ruins. And I really like that. And then there's certain places that the viewer's eye does not need to be, which is mainly this first step and this little left step here and the top of the sky. I don't think those parts of the photo are relevant to where I want the viewer to look. So I'm just going to burn these areas, and this is pretty much just painting with a black brush at a certain blend mode, and it blends very nicely. It's almost like a manual vignette, but you have a lot more control, and sometimes when you use a vignette it just looks like you have like this black egg shape in your photo, which I definitely don't like. Alright, let me see the before and after of this. I'm actually going to go in a little bit more right there. Okay, before, after, before, after. So I definitely think it helped, but I think it's a little too intense. So I'm going to drop that, see what 50% looks like. Before, after, definitely helps. So I think just that little subtle touch helped quite a bit. I think the last thing I'm going to do is one more merge visible and just give a touch of vibrance to the photo. Not the blues, however, kind of just the yellow. Let's do greens and oranges. Do greens quite a bit. I might even do the luminance, because that'll help intensify what I already did over here. So that's before, that would be after. But I need to desaturate a little bit because that brightness kind of naturally brought in some saturation. And yeah, I think that looks a lot more well balanced. A little bit of vibrance, and I think I would say that this photo is complete. I hope you guys maybe learn some new tricks, maybe some new tools, some new kind of editing techniques, whatever it may be. If you have any questions or anything, just leave a comment below. If there's anything you want me to specifically go over, also please leave a comment. Other than that, I hope you enjoyed. If you could, like and subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next one.